Hello everyone, Jesse D here from sunny San Leon, Texas, and today we're going to be talking about the Steeling 6-inch lift kit for the E-Z-GO electric golf cart 2001 and a half and newer. This kit was purchased from Amazon. It was titled as a E-Z-GO TXT electric golf cart 2001 newer. The kit comes complete with the 6-inch lift kit plus 4 12-inch wheels and 4 23-inch all-terrain tires. Your kit will arrive all together, containing everything that you need to get your cart lifted and be styling around your neighborhood in no time. Now, we recommend that you check all the components carefully according to the supplied parts list, ensuring that everything is there and nothing is damaged. You will also find assembly instructions enclosed with your new lift kit, and for most of you, I know that's all you need. But for me, I'm kind of a visual kind of guy, and I do appreciate being able to learn from watching somebody else do it. So that being said, I'm hoping that this video demonstration will assist you with your Steeling lift kit installation. Okay, before we get started, I just want to remind everyone to please practice safety first. Got to have the right attitude. Wear the proper personal protective equipment, whatever that may be. Pay attention to pinch points, line of fire, and for God's sakes, protect your eyes and protect your hands. You will need some basic tools for this project: a 3/8 drive socket ratchet set, a crescent wrench for a backup, hammer, some screwdrivers, and a ball joint extractor is really nice but not mandatory. You'll need some grease, anti-seize, and if you don't have anti-seize, you can use the grease, and of course an impact wrench always makes everything go faster. And just remember, safety first. Okay, let's go ahead and get started using the assembly instructions. We will first be performing the front installation. One thing I didn't mention for needed tools is a way to lift your cart as well as support it. Once the cart is lifted, support it using jack stands or your preference on the first cross rib located just behind the front wheels. Remove the wheel coverings using a flathead screwdriver, then remove both front wheels. Next, we're going to remove the tie rod ends from the wheel spindles. The tie rod end and the ball joint on the driver's side, the left side of the cart, I left the ball joint attached to the spindle, which I'll explain later. Now we can remove both wheel spindles, clean and lubricate the bolts for reassembly. Now my cart is a 2006 and I found the front right passenger side spindle bolt to be excessively rusted and worn. Also pay close attention to the bronze base wear washer on the top of each spindle bushing, that it don't get set aside or lost. Now I replaced both these spindle bolts with 1/2-inch stainless steel bolts bought from a local hardware store, and yours may be perfectly fine and reusable, and I would encourage you to do just that if they are. Next, remove the lower nuts and bushings from the front shocks where they attach to the front carriage. Remove the 3 support bolts for the steering chamber. We're going to lay the chamber on the back of the leaf springs. The front right support bolt is also part of the front support plate for the leaf spring. Next, remove the 3 bolts holding each of the support plates securing the front leaf springs, allowing the original front carriage to be removed and set aside. The right front wheel spindle requires alterations to the original ball joint support holes. Both holes will need to be drilled out to 1/2 inch for the installation of the new steering riser. The original ball joint holes are on a taper. I would recommend that you drill from the small side of the taper hole. Now you can see I used a drill press to perform this activity, but as long as safety is the key factor in the process, a hand drill could be used as well, as long as you have a way to securely hold it. Yes, it is now assembly time for the front, and we can place what they call the new axle or carriage up on the shock stems and on top of the leaf springs. Now we're going to mount the triangular support plates underneath, securing the carriage to the front leaf springs. Remember to use your anti-seize if you have some, grease if not. Also remember to install the spacer on the front bolt of the right side left to the cart for the steering chamber support. Once you have all 6 bolts installed, 3 on each side, leaving the bolts slightly loose, push the carriage back towards the floorboard of the golf cart against the bolts, ensuring for a proper alignment. Secure a bolt on each side while holding the carriage in place. All 6 bolts now be properly tightened. Replace the nuts, washers, bushings on the shocks and tighten accordingly. Replace the steering chamber. Earlier in the video I mentioned that I did not remove the steering rod ball joint from the left driver's side spindle. Instead, I removed the old rod and replaced it with the new steering rod. We can now install the wheel spindles, tie rods, and the new steering riser for the lift kit. We'll install the steering body along with the hardened bushing. Be sure and remember the thrust washer that goes on the top. Install your new 1/2 inch bolt and a new nylock nut on the bottom. Tighten accordingly. Make sure you check the hardened steel bushing that it slips freely into the steering housing, and once again, don't forget the washer. The right passenger side front wheel spindle had a casting that needed to be ground down for the spindle to turn full motion. As you can see, it stops about halfway through, unlike the left one that has full motion. Once it was ground down, we had full motion on the right spindle, as it should be. It's just one of those things you need to pay close attention to as you're doing this process. Install the new steering rod ball joint for the passenger side spindle. The rod has left and right hand threads, allowing you to adjust the toe end of the wheels, and we'll make this adjustment to the toe end after we complete both the front and back assembly. Now we're going to install the new steering riser. And lastly, the main steering cylinder ball joint. Okay, let's install them fancy new wheels on the front of this thing. Now the center hub cap basically just slides in and you mount your wheel and install your lug nuts. I ran mine up with an impact wrench, but I actually torqued my lug nuts to 110 foot-pounds. It's not mandatory, but recommended. Now that we're almost complete with the front assembly, let's get started on the rear. Now, I perform this task solo, but would highly recommend for safety's sake and support. I would encourage anyone performing this activity to recruit some assistance, just due to the nature of the disassembly and assembly process. Understanding that the axle moving from the top of the leaf spring to the bottom of the leaf springs can result in a challenging assignment for one person. Now, that being said, let's get started. We're going to jack up and raise the rear portion of the cart, placing jack stands or your choice of support on the cross plate just on the inside of the rear leaf spring supports. Remove both rear wheels, place jacks, or once again your choice of support, underneath each side of the rear axle at the brake drum area as to lower or raise as needed during disassembly and assembly. Then we're going to remove the lower support from both of the rear shocks, cleaning and lubricating for later assembly, followed by the removal of the shock and axle retaining plate, which is on top of the spring there, from each side of the cart. Now, understanding that the rear axle is resting on the leaf springs, supporting the rear axle as we talked about on each side, you can now remove both of the rear leaf springs. Now, as you viewed in this video, the original rear leaf springs are worn and weak, so I chose to replace them with a newer heavy-duty rear leaf spring assembly that can be purchased at pretty much any golf cart supply or online. Okay, now we can put the new rear riser kit parts in place along with the new springs original. Everything will be just in reverse of the disassembly with the exception of the relationship with the axle being underneath the leaf spring instead of on top as seen in the instruction. Install your new original rear leaf springs. Place the new riser over the axle with the taller side of the riser facing towards the rear of the golf cart. Using the original support plate attached to the bottom of the axle, bolt the riser to the axle using the bolt supplied with your kit. Once you raise your axle into place, you will be using the new shock support plate also supplied in your kit. Use your jacks on each side, raise the axle up to the leaf springs using the alignment centering holes on the new riser and the alignment centering pin on the leaf springs. Place the new shock support plate on top of the leaf springs, once again using the alignment pin and hole as shown in this demonstration. Secure the assembly using the original U-bolts. You should now wind up with something like this. You can install your new rear tires and wheels, remove your jacks, and set this sucker on the ground. Remember me saying we'd be coming back to the new front tie rod adjustment? Well, it's time to adjust the toe end on the front wheels and adjust your steering wheel back to center. The tie rod has right-hand threads on one side and left-hand threads on the other, allowing you to open or close the gap by simply rotating the rod in one direction or the other. The instructions suggest that you drive the cart forward 10 to 20 feet. However, I chose not to perform this activity. Instead, I achieved the same results, leaving the cart in place. Using a straight edge of your choice on each side, getting it as near to the forward motion as possible. Then placing straight edges on each side of the front wheels using some help if available, setting the toe end to the preferred 1/8 of an inch. Once you have the proper toe end, tighten or set the lock nuts on each ball joint. After you're done setting the toe end, you will probably in most cases find your steering wheel off center, and this is an easy adjustment. Remove the steering rod coupling from the steering chamber by loosening and removing the clamping bolt. You will find this to be a spline coupling that you can simply rotate and turn to a new location. With your front wheels in the forward position, rotate the steering wheel in the centered position and reinstall the steering rod coupling to the steering chamber, replacing the lock bolt, and tighten. You're all done, ready to roll. We here at J&B Enterprises like to thank you for watching and hope that it will be of some assistance for those of you who are interested. I'm sure we missed some things of interest to some, and we certainly apologize, but feel free to contact us on our email at j.b.enterprises.5464@gmail.com. We will be happy to assist you with any of your questions and appreciate your feedback. So from sunny San Leon, we say so long until next time. Happy trails to all.